Nigeria, as a nation, has no business importing sugar. These are not my words. According to industry watchers, the availability of a land mass of over 500,000 hectares and perhaps more is very suitable for cane production and thus capable of producing sugarcane in its number. Well, however, our nation's production, as we've been told, is quite low. Well, how true this is, we'll get to find out soon. Established by Decree 88 of 1993, and amended in 2015, the National Sugar Development Council, that's NSDC, is the agency responsible for the regulation of all activities in the sugar subsector. Now, this range from production, marketing, importation, and enforcement of relevant industry standards. And this is in collaboration with other government agencies. How far has the council fared in discharging its duties? And what more does it need to do? On the spot is a guest we should know. We'll be right back. My guest holds a PhD in agronomy from the University of Ibadan, after which he spent decades of research on sugarcane as a crop and also policy formulation for the sugar sector. Now, a one-time chief research officer and head sugarcane research program of the National Cereal Research Institute, that's NCRI, in Badegi, Niger State. A former assistant director of agriculture and natural sciences of the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, and also former director of policy, planning, research, and statistics of the National Sugar Development Council. My guest is a member as well as a fellow of several professional bodies in the agricultural and management sector. Now on the spot today is the Executive Secretary of the National Sugar Development Council, Dr. Latif Demola Busari. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, let's see what sweet things can come forth from this sugar. They say, of course, is a sweetener for so many people, but beyond just giving the taste bud something sweet.
Yeah.
What more can it do to benefit the nation? This is one charge we're here for. Now, the local need for sugar in the country is said to be to the tune of 1.5 metric tons annually, perhaps more.
Yeah.
What have we been able to do with this figure?
Well, largely we are still dependent on importing what we call raw sugar, which we refine in the country to produce the sugar that we all see all over the place by three major refineries: the Dangote Sugar Refinery, Boa Sugar Refinery, and the Golden Sugar. Between the three of them, they have installed capacity for about 3 million metric tons of sugar. And of course, like you said, we consume about 1.5 million metric tons, which means their refineries are actually operating at about 50% of capacity utilization. Now, as to local sugar production itself, we are still a little bit way down. Sugar production to us means you have the cane fields where farmers grow the crop, and when they mature, you take them to the factories where they are, subject through all the sugar processing processes, and then you get sugar at the end of the day. Right from the 70s, when we had first the Basista Sugar Company, then the Savannah Sugar Company in Newman, between the two of them, between the 70s and 80s, when you combine the production from the two, we were able to produce about 20% of the total requirement. But as the population, grows, and the need for sugar, blossoms, and then even the factories themselves also collapsed. So our capacity to produce what we consume kept dwindling. Right now, it's less than 5%.
So 5%, that's the capacity for refining what we
No.
For production.
Local production, but then we came up with the Sugar Master Plan in 2013. It's supposed to be a 10-year plan that will see us producing about 1.8 to 2 million metric tons of sugar annually. That is what we projected we'll be needing by 2020, 2023. Okay, so we started, and we believe that the early success will come from getting the refineries that I talked about to do what we call backward integration. In other words, begin to substitute the raw sugar they import with sugar they produce locally in Nigeria. And we have 3 of them that signed on signed on some commitment with federal government, and we are monitoring the projects. The Dangote sugar refinery has its BIP project in Savannah Sugar Company, Noman. Okay. The BUA has its own in Lafiagi. Golden Sugar has its own in Sunti. And we'll be monitoring. And it's been a little bit slow in coming, but I think we are gradually getting back on track.
Why are we experiencing that slow growth?
Yeah.
Because if these are big players you've just mentioned, what is not coming on strong in getting more and pushing that number? A
number of factors. The investment climate. Thank God the current government is doing a lot in getting the investment climate, more business friendly. It's not been there. 2, you will remember the country itself, the economy went into recession in 2016, affected all businesses. And then we do have peculiar or unique challenges of the sector itself. Now, sugarcane needs a lot of land. The minimum, let's say, is about, if not for many plants, the minimum for the kind of plants that we want will be about 5,000 hectares. Okay. 10,000 hectares, 20,000, 25,000 hectares. That amount of land is going to displace a lot of communities. And so there will be some bit of resistance from people. So even where you have sugar projects already established, communal issues are a key challenge. So I mentioned Savannah Sugar Company in Noman, established in 1980. We are still having communal issues with people 2, 3 generations down the line still asking for compensation and the like. So that's one. 2, another challenge is the issue of some of the incentives that government was supposed to provide. We have challenges getting them delivered through some, acts of some other agencies, maybe not understanding what some of these things are. For instance, sugar machineries are supposed to be brought in, 0 duty. They will bring this machinery and it gets to the ports, and there are issues with the customs, such that it could delay 3-4 months before they are able to bring in the equipment. So you do have this. Flood is one huge problem.
You just talked about issue of floods and also some other constraints that is not making this.
Yeah, but what you have in the case of the flooding is the issue of climate change, and this affects everybody. What we need to do is to install early warning systems that will let people know about these floods before they happen.
That's an aspect of technology.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's okay, but then so that now you take proactive. Well, you even get information. So what do you do about it? The early warning system will tell you this is going to happen. Then you have to now do something about it. So it's now your response to it that helps. Otherwise, if you don't respond, technology will not help you do that. So you install that one and you get information and you react to it. So recently, late last year, we had a meeting with the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing, because most of the flood come from Jeba and Kanji dams, at least for Sunti. And so we need to have the sugar operators talk with the operators of the dams. And then there's also a body called the National Control Center that determines what amount of water is released and what amount of power is generated. So at that meeting, the Honorable Minister ensured that they form a tripartite committee to look into this case of constant flooding. So I think we are gradually getting over that. Even the issue of communal challenges. We started with having what we call town hall meetings with the communities, telling them the various benefits that will come from allowing the sugar projects to be set up. The problem with our people is that they want some of these benefits right away, and they have to allow the operators to settle down, start producing, start making profits, and then from there.
Are some of the people in such communities not farmers themselves or growers of some of this?
They are.
Of this
they
crop?
are, and that's part of the things that the operators will do if they are allowed to actually set up shop. They would also establish outgrower schemes that would engage a lot of the farmers around
I was
them.
going to come to that aspect of such schemes that will boost the drive for investments, whether locally or even foreign direct investments to do that. Most of the time, agriculturalists or people in the sector always make complaints about funds, maybe credit schemes that could actually support the sector. How is NSDC coming in strong to actually help out in this process?
Yeah, well, the kind of funds that our major operators need, the Sugar Council doesn't have that kind of fund. But of course, fortunately, the government has a number of schemes that are going on there. There's CAC scheme, and I think a lot of our operators have benefited from the central bank. They have a number of schemes that Anchor Borrowers program, so government has done well in that, for agriculture in the last couple of years. So, and then Sugar Council itself has come up with an agro scheme that we finance ourselves, so we just need to get the farmers to sign offtake agreement with the operators, and then we will finance, of course, through Bank of Agriculture. And then, so there is no problem with that one.
So how do you monitor that, at least for at least for the people who are coming after to actually benefit from?
No problem.
But
before we can get into that, the factory must be in place, because it's the factory that will utilize the cane that they are going to produce. So that is where the issue is. It takes some time to, because it's not something you just go to the shop and pick. You have to design your factory, give it to the people that will produce for you to fit your design, then bring them the machineries, then install, test run, and that's when you are now ready to take, canes from the farmers.
Now that we're constrained in this direction of what the factories, kind of factories we are envisioning should be, when we return from this break, because we're going on a break now, we'll take a look at that vis-a-vis the 10-year plan that was set up 6 years down the line.
Where are we?
Where are we, and how have we been able to incorporate all of this, and what next?
Okay.
You're watching On the Spot with the Executive Secretary, Dr. Latif Demola Busari of the National Sugar Development Council. We'll be right back after the break.
The Nigerian Television Authority News 24 channel, your dependable all-round news station, offering you world-class news programs, documentaries, spotlights, promos, and information highlights. Take advantage of our network reach and advertise your interest, goods and services with us. NTA News 24, first on equals with digital broadcasting. You can reach us on Channel 21 Terrestrial TV and Channel 101 on the Star Times platform. For more inquiries, please call Henry on 0803 379 0884. Join us today.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, the program is On the Spot, and my guest is still seated. We're taking a look at sugar production and generally what NSDC is doing to improve the lot of Nigerians who are involved in this, as well as other forms of investment. Yes, sir. We talked about the plan, the 10-year plan that was taken up in 2012, but actually started 2013. 6 years down the line, where are we?
Okay, I think we are back on track. I mentioned the kind of slowdown we had in 2015-2016. We used the period 2017 to get we did what we call the midterm review meeting for the plan in 2017 June, and since that time we rolled out new guidelines and got the operators to sign new commitments, and we've been monitoring that. Right now, I think this year, 2019, we expect to see 2 projects commissioned. The expansion of the Savannah Sugar Company, that will take it to 6,000 TCD. That will bring in about 90,000 tons of sugar annually from there. And the moment they complete the 6,000 expansion, they are now going for a 12,000 TCD plant. That will bring in another 180,000 tons of sugar. We also have some greenfield projects. There is one in Hadejia, in Gagarawa in Jigawa State. Okay. It's owned by a Chinese group. They call them Lee Group. They are very popular in Kano. They have hands into some other industrial sectors. But for their sugar, they are bringing in 7,000 TCD plants. Okay. So Then we are also making efforts to revive the premier sugar industry in Nigeria, the Nigerian Sugar Company in Basita. It was privatized like the other ones, and the lady that bought it unfortunately died. So now the talks are on to bring in a new co-investor that would revive the plant. And we believe that everything working out fine before 2022. That project too, if we are able to surmount the little challenges that we are doing with AMCON, with the investor, by 2022, that plant too should be able to come in, maybe in the first phase, bringing under 50,000. So when you aggregate all this, by that 2023, we should be close to 800, 900,000 tons of sugar. Is a little bit far from where we expect to be. But see, most of these projects that I mentioned are their first phases. And most of them have second phases. For instance, the green field project that I mentioned in that is Dangote is handling in a place called Tunga in Nasarawa State. The first phase is 12,000 TCD. That will bring in 180,000 tons. Second phase is another 12,000 TCD. So the Gagarawa plant too, that's the first phase. They're also adding more. So I believe that the important thing is to, when you start off, I've laid that strong foundation for it. By the end of the 2023, when the original plan will end, we'll be close to 1 million. We won't hit the 1.8 that we thought of, but because of those challenges that I mentioned.
Okay, beyond some of those areas you've already mentioned, in talking to some of the investors, whether the big players or would-be players eventually, what kind of frustration do they bring before you, at least to actually channel their energy, their money in the right direction? Yeah,
they're always there. One big one right now is the issue of smuggling. You know, the BIP that I talked about, the idea behind the BIP is that we operate a sugar quota system that allows them to import raw sugar, refine, sell, and the profits from that will be plowed back into their BIP operations. But now with the smuggling there, they are not able to sell as much as they ought to. So that's a huge one, especially in the Northeast. And when you even look at that from the health perspective, it's another story entirely. But let's concentrate on the challenges of our operators. Smuggling is one of them. The second one I mentioned is some of the incentives that government promised to make sure we deliver them. And then, of course, we also need to work closely with them and the state governments, to acquire land. I told you we deal with a crop that needs a lot of water and a lot of land. Just to give you an idea, if you have about 100 hectares, 200 hectares for rice or maize, you're a big-time farmer in rice or maize. With 200, 300 hectares in sugarcane, you haven't started at all. Wow. So you're talking of 5,000, 10,000 hectares, and that's a huge amount of land. And so we need to get the governors to cooperate. All of us have come to this conclusion that we need to diversify our economy, and this government is trying along that direction. The state government needs to buying into it. But so far,
not strong response from the state government? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we have some challenges with some state governments.
Even despite some of those companies that are located
in there. Yeah, because when we have challenges with the local people, we expect the state government to come in strongly. I mean, look at the kind of thing we have in Noman. We expect the Adamawa state government to come in strongly to assist. Quell the thing, you shouldn't leave it to the investors to, handle alone, So we need them to come in, provide the land, help us when there are communal issues, because these are their people after all. And of course, the investors too will do their own. We are encouraging them to do a lot of CSR, but the CSR will come as the project progresses. It's not the first thing that the investor wants to go to a place to start doing, So some of those things, and they are work in progress. We are addressing them and we are surmounting them. And if new ones come, we also face them and solve, and then we go on.
All right, Dr. Busari, I know earlier on, as in the first parts of the conversation, we talked about what huge volume of potentials this sector is providing or can provide. And I also noticed that most of the examples you've cited, whether location of the industry or those interested, are actually up north here. Whatever happens to the south, there's no good soil to actually handle that there, because you just talked about volume of water to even do that.
Yeah, they do have good soil. In fact, you just mentioned it. It's like you have too much water.
Okay.
Now, sugarcane at a point needs to be, we call it dry off. At a point in time when it's been growing, it gets to a point where you need to dry off. Even where you provide irrigation, you need to stop irrigation to allow the sucrose to, concentrate, because that's what you want to. So in the south, where you have a lot of rainfall, it doesn't allow that accumulation to take place. The crop will just be growing vegetatively, using the energy instead of concentrating it to be able to.
Okay.
So we have some part of that.
All right. I asked that question because I know each day, at least you're a crop researcher yourself, so at least you've done so much extensive work on this particular crop.
Yeah.
And I know technology over the world is being adapted for so many things.
Sure.
And I know there was a time people were even thinking with the idea of fuel from sugarcane.
It's still happening.
Oh, great.
It's still happening.
Isn't such energy enough for us to still tap into, perhaps with other government agencies alongside what sugar companies?
We are. In fact, the master plan stipulates that if you see the deliverables from the master plan, it says that by the end of the plan period, if you are able to produce 1.82 million metric tons of sugar, we should be able to also deliver over 600 million liters of ethanol annually. So it's part of it. It's one of the important co-products of sugar. So, and that is where the southern part comes in. The sugarcane you grow there may not be too useful for sugar, but it will be useful for ethanol production.
So I think that's another cash cow that state government you could actually use that as a bait for them to key into.
Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, I know for some already, I know you don't want to touch more on that because that's why you're in business. This sugarcane is serving as sweetener.
Yeah.
Well, of course, already we're even looking at it. For those who don't want to actually say they want to consume that, they're actually for health benefits. Aside being the sweetener, we've just talked about that of fuel ethanol now.
Yeah.
What other things can people actually who want to invest in this and come partner with, say, Kenso?
Yeah, so many things. We just talked about ethanol that you can use for not only as an industrial chemical, it's also used in fueling vehicles. Brazil, 85% of vehicles in Brazil is on ethanol. The bagasse is there, the fiber left after you have taken your juice out. It's used also in a lot of things, particle boards. Now it's mainly used for even power generation. There's something in the industry called the cogeneration. You use the power, the bagasse, as fuel to run your steam turbines, and then you generate electricity. So you do have a lot of that. And so there are a lot of things that chemicals, plastics, bioplastics, a lot of things come from the sugar industry beside the major product, which is sugar. Okay. Then you talked about health. Yeah. Let me first clear the fact that over 85% of the sugar, that 1.2 we talk about, goes into the industry. It's not what you and I, just less than 20% that you and I take in our tea or come. And we have every choice to add 2 cubes or 10 or 1. Okay? Now, a lot of the talk about sugar now, is now the toxin, is now a poison. People should realize that without sugar, we will not even survive. The basic energy for your brain to function is sugar. So if you don't have it, a lot of the food you have actually contains sugar. What they are talking about is added sugar. It's not that sugar itself, but a lot of people don't understand. They think it's just the sugar that they are talking about. We think it's a kind of like you had it for fat at a point in time. People don't eat fat, then don't eat salt. So it's the ton of sugar.
So moderation should be the word.
That is the key word. That is the key word. Sugar is not the only culprit for obesity. There is a lifestyle thing, and that's what we preach. People should look at their lifestyle and moderate things. Even ordinary water, if you take too much.
Okay, moderation is the key word.
Yes.
At least while you're trying to be moderate on that, look for that moderate means of making money from the
Oh, sure, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Dr. Latif Demola Busari, Executive Secretary, National Sugar Development Council. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
We appreciate your time and
you.
wish you more fruitfulness, even as this sweetener is on the table, as well as other means that it can bring profits to the people.
Thank you.
That's on the spot for this week. We thank you for your company. My name is Blessing Abu. Goodbye.